Have you ever wondered about the impact of PFAS on our environment? Let's start by understanding what PFAS are. Known in full as per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, these are a group of man-made chemicals renowned for their notorious persistence, earning them the nickname forever chemicals. The common belief has been that these substances drain from the land into the oceans, where they are diluted into the deep waters over the course of decades. However, a new study by researchers at the Department of Environmental Science, Stockholm University, published in Science Advances, paints a different picture, revealing a rather unexpected phenomenon. This research introduces us to a fascinating yet concerning concept, the boomerang effect. As opposed to the previously held belief of oceans being the final destination for PFAS, the researchers suggest that these substances are actually re-emitted into the air from crashing ocean waves at levels comparable to or even greater than other sources. This establishes a cyclical transport process for these forever chemicals between land and sea. Imagine throwing a boomerang into the air, expecting it to fly forward and away only to have it returned to you. Now apply this concept to PFAS. We believed they were heading out to sea, but they're coming back, carried by the very waves we thought were their final journey. Field experiments conducted across the Atlantic Ocean showed that PFAS concentrations in air particles were surpassing seawater concentrations by over 100,000 times. This led to subsequent global modeling that estimated the re-emission, atmospheric transport, and deposition of PFAS back to land. This boomerang effect is not just a scientific curiosity. It has serious implications for the global distribution and impact of these persistent chemicals. And what if we told you the ocean isn't just a final resting place for these chemicals? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this PFAS conundrum in the next scene. The Stockholm University study offers a new perspective on this issue. A team of researchers from the Department of Environmental Science at Stockholm University recently published a study in Science Advances that has put a new spin on our understanding of PFAS, or per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances. These forever chemicals, known for their extreme persistence, are not staying put as previously thought. The common belief was that PFAS drained from the land into the oceans, where they would stay and gradually be diluted into the deep oceans over the span of decades. However, this study conducted by Professor Ian Cousins and his team has shown that there's a bit of a boomerang effect happening with these toxic substances. Field experiments were conducted across the Atlantic Ocean by co-authors Bo Shah, a postdoc at the Department of Environmental Science, and Jana Johansson, a former researcher at the same department and currently at Linköping University. They observed that the concentration of PFAS in air particles was surpassing seawater concentrations by over 100,000 times. This staggering finding was the result of 2 months of intensive work on a ship where they conducted multiple field experiments using a custom-built sea spray simulator. This discovery suggests that when ocean waves crash, they re-emit these forever chemicals into the air at levels comparable to or greater than other sources. This establishes a cyclical transport process for PFAS between land and sea. This cycle, this disturbing dance between the land and sea, is not a waltz we want to keep going. The results of this study are scientifically impactful and disconcerting, and they have sparked a lot of interest among scientists, regulators, and the public alike. It's a wake-up call, revealing that our oceans are not just the final resting place for these toxic chemicals. Instead, they're part of a disturbing cycle that sends them back to where they started, our land. What we're seeing is a cycle, a disturbing dance between the land and sea. What exactly is this boomerang effect we're talking about? Well, let's take a ride on that boomerang and see what's happening. Imagine these forever chemicals, PFAS, being tossed into the ocean like a boomerang. The common belief would have us think that once they're in the ocean, they'd stay there, diluted over time into the deep, deep sea. However, much like a boomerang, they don't just stay put. They're not content to remain in the ocean's depths. This is where the boomerang takes its unexpected turn. The ocean waves, those crashing, foamy giants, they're not just water and salt. They're also carriers. As they crash and break, they whip these PFAS back up into the air, creating a fine mist of chemical-laden particles. But the journey doesn't end there. Once airborne, these particles are transported over vast distances. They're caught up in currents, swept along by winds, and carried far from their oceanic origin. And then finally they settle back down onto land. This is the boomerang effect in action. PFAS don't just drain from the land into the ocean, they also re-emit from the ocean back into the air, and from the air, they return to the land. It's a cyclical process, a constant back and forth that keeps these toxic substances in circulation. The researchers from the Stockholm University conducted numerous field experiments across the Atlantic Ocean, which revealed that the concentration of PFAS in air particles can surpass seawater concentrations by over 100,000 times. That's a staggering amount, isn't it? And this discovery has led to a global reevaluation of how we perceive and model the transport and deposition of PFAS. So the next time you're standing by the ocean, watching those waves crash and break, remember the boomerang. Remember that the ocean isn't just a sink for these toxic chemicals. Thus, the ocean isn't merely a sink for PFAS, it's a source catapulting these toxic chemicals back to us. Why should we be concerned about this, you might ask? Well, let's dive into the health implications of PFAS, these so-called forever chemicals. Per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS for short, are not just regular chemicals that can easily be rinsed off or broken down. They are characterized by their extreme persistence, hence the nickname forever chemicals. They are the uninvited guests that overstay their welcome in our bodies and the environment. One of the most alarming aspects of PFAS is their association with a variety of serious health conditions. Imagine an enemy that can compromise the very defense system you rely on to keep you healthy, your immune system. PFAS have been linked with weakened immune function, making those exposed more susceptible to infectious diseases. But the potential dangers of PFAS don't stop there. These chemicals have also been associated with fertility issues. The joy of bringing a new life into the world can be marred by the invisible presence of these chemicals. Studies have indicated that PFAS can interfere with the body's natural hormones, disrupting the reproductive cycle and potentially leading to fertility problems. Perhaps the most feared health implication of PFAS is their link to cancer. Long-term exposure to these chemicals has been associated with an increased risk of several types of cancer. This includes kidney and testicular cancer, among others. In Denmark, a country known for its extensive coastline, scientists have compiled compelling evidence indicating that the sea serves as the primary source of PFAS along their west coast. This finding aligns with the predictions of the Stockholm study, suggesting that coastal regions bear the greatest impact. This paints a rather worrying picture, doesn't it? But it's a picture that we need to be aware of to understand the gravity of the PFAS issue. So, why should we be concerned about this? Because the reach of these forever chemicals is far and wide, affecting our health in ways we're still uncovering. Who bears the brunt of this impact, you might ask? Well, the answer is as alarming as it is unexpected. Coastal regions, those beautiful corners of our world where land meets sea, are the ones most at risk. A study by Stockholm University has shed light on the conundrum of PFAS, or per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. These forever chemicals are not content to remain in the deep oceans as previously thought. Instead, they boomerang back to our lands, propelled by the very waves that were supposed to dilute them. And where do these waves crash with the most intensity? Yes, you guessed right, the coastlines. To illustrate this point, let's take a trip to Denmark. Scientists in this Scandinavian country have compiled compelling evidence indicating that the sea, specifically the crashing waves, serves as the primary source of PFAS along their west coast. This is not a localized issue, but rather a global concern. The coastal regions around the world, from the sunny beaches of California to the rugged cliffs of Scotland, all bear the brunt of this silent assault. Imagine living in a coastal region, basking in the beauty of the sea, only to find out that the very waves you admire are bringing back toxic substances linked to cancer, fertility issues, and compromised immune system function. This is the harsh reality for millions of people living along the coastlines. The study by Stockholm University has not only revealed a critical piece of the PFAS puzzle, but it has also sounded the alarm for coastal regions worldwide. It's a call to action for us to better understand the full cycle of these forever chemicals, from their creation and usage to their disposal and now their unexpected return. In conclusion, it's important to remember that our coasts, our beautiful, bustling coasts, are silent witnesses to this invisible assault. They bear the brunt of the impact, yet they continue to stand, reminding us of the urgent need to tackle this issue head-on.